Hey everyone, Matt here again with Critically Contemplate. And today I want to talk about a segment that I had heard in a conversation between Chris Williamson and Jimmy Carr. Chris Williamson is a host of a podcast named Modern Wisdom, and Jimmy Carr is a pretty famous stand up comedian. I think they have a beautiful conversation, and I'll have the entire conversation listed below in the description. Um, this is about a 5 minute segment of that clip, and I think it's an awesome talking point and something that can be expanded on a little bit further. And I'd love to dive deep a little bit. Also, in this video, I am currently recording this while my son is attempting to take a nap. Seems to be doing pretty good so far, but if you see me glancing up in the corner, it's because I'm checking on the baby monitor. And then also, sometimes it decides to randomly just disconnect for about a quarter of a second. So if you hear a random beep, it's from that, or maybe just a random whimper. He's probably just making some noise. But if you can just excuse those things, hopefully we have a pretty fun conversation today. Let's get right into it.
What's your theory on kindness?
Well, my theory on kindness would be that we have maybe everyone wants to be kind. And the problem is the marshmallow test. You can have one kindness now or two kindness later. And we have to, I think, as a society, as people, I think it's the thing that sort of parenting has kind of taught me, but just life in general, like be kind to yourself, be kind to others later.
It's a interesting point, I think, is um, he's talking about be kind to yourself and be kind to others later. And I think those, in a lot of ways, play hand in hand. Um, some something that a little bit into my background, I guess, is I am actually a former restaurant business owner. I just recently actually got out of that, but um, something that I had to realize as I was starting out and kind of as I developed throughout the years of doing it is kind of this thought on be kind to yourself and be kind to others later. Because when you're so focused on making everybody else happy and you're so worried about what everybody's thoughts are about what you're doing, which was my experience completely. I've always been kind of a people pleaser, and it's actually been so much that it's been a crutch. And I've kind of recently really taken strides out of that, and my confidence overall has improved. But something that I always struggled with was trying to make everybody happy. And it got to a point where I was so stressed and it was leading into so many other things that were causing problems in my life. Um, it was making a huge decline in my mental health. My relationship with my friends and family was declining. Um, I didn't want to do anything. Anytime I wasn't working, I was home trying to do anything I could to not think about it. And thankfully, that didn't become, I didn't do anything that could become an addiction, but I'm glad I didn't gain an addiction out of that. And so, kind of woke up this morning with a bit of congestion, trying to deal with that in a non disgusting way. um, yeah, all that to say though is something that I realized is I can't make anybody happy. I can't be kind. I can't deal with all of these different things that are going on and all these expectations of me if I don't have a standard set for myself. And something that I did was I had to start focusing on my own happiness and things that I enjoyed and things that not only in the sense of like my happiness, but just my overall well being. Like, for example, I wanted to pay my employees a really fair wage. I wanted to be competitive. I wanted to um, I wanted to give people what I felt like they deserved. And I think that most people deserve a livable wage. And in the process of doing that, I wasn't making anything. So here I am as a business owner operator. I'm an ungodly amount of money in debt. I am working between 60 and 80 hours a week, sometimes more than that. And sometimes less than that, though, to be fair. But even when I wasn't working, I was trying to figure out some other back end stuff. And, but I couldn't live. I was like I said, I was in a lot of debt. I had bills that I was trying to juggle, um, while I'm paying people these like really, I think, really fair wages, and they're doing fine. They're able to. I had an employee go and was able to put a down payment on a new car, and I'm not saying that he didn't deserve it, but like I'm over here trying to figure out how I'm going to keep my lights on, and he's trying to figure out the next fun expense he can have. So it was this juggling act that I had to do where I was trying to basically limit the amount of harm I was causing to myself while also trying to make people as happy as they could. And that just didn't seem to work. And so I really resonate with what he is saying, like Jimmy is saying here, because I learned that being kind to myself and really focusing on like my well-being in literally the least selfish and self-centered way I can say that, but focusing on my well-being and my happiness seemed to be more beneficial to everybody, because then I'm in a better position to give raises, or in a better position to be more engaged at work and actually like follow through with like certain things I was working on with employees, instead of trying to juggle 90 different things at once because I'm so stressed and I keep trying to do stuff and then I'm putting it off because I don't want to think about it. And so it turned out that when I started focusing on my own well-being, that it seemed to be a net positive for everybody else involved. And it seems that's kind of what he's going into in a sense. And yeah, I just think that's something worth noting about your your happiness and how that can translate into other people's happiness. But to truly be kind to other people, I think there's a necessary step in there at a certain point anyway, of where you have to be kind to yourself first. But let's see what else he has to say about this.
And I think we all know that thing of like the kind thing to do now is to go to Greg's and buy some donuts and smash them. Great, get that sugar hit right now. And the kinder thing to do is to have a salad and feel good tomorrow. And with yourself, with others, just delay it. Delay it. Do the kind thing. It's easy to give in now to whims and desires, but actually, if you hold back, it's better.
Yeah, I kindness is kind of like an unsexy thing. It feels almost like the sort of thing that's very hard to justify in a capitalistic world. One where everyone's striving.
Here we are. You got a non-measurable metric.
Yep.
That is incredibly important. So if we talk about disposition.
Like I said, I watched this a couple of weeks ago, and I completely forgot about that aspect of him talking about it in relation, the kindness in relation to capitalism. I think that's really funny because of just talking about my experience as a business owner. Just a fun side note.
Tough to measure. Position? Oh my God, so easy to measure. How are you doing? How many downloads this month? How many people listening? How many people tweeting? What did they say? Easy. Disposition, not done. It's about you. How are you feeling?
Yeah.
That kindness is and it comes, you're not being kind It's ultimately it's for you. It's just a nicer way to live.
Yeah, I love this position, disposition, hidden, observable metric frame. I really think there's something in there.
I think the hidden observable. I think maybe we could apply that to everything. Because what's the successful show is it's sold out. Does that make it successful? You could fill the room, but can you fill it with laughter? It's how are you viewing things? Like it's the wrong time scale often. People often think of the show as being the show tonight. All my show is a sales pitch for next time. So
I'm gonna not pause this in a spot where Jimmy looks like something's possessing him.
all it is.
It's a little bit better. We'll see. But, yeah, this idea of like a hidden metric, I think, is a really cool topic. The way that we measure success and like, the way that we decide what we value and hold dear is something that seems like we should be able to put on paper, but sometimes, as I think he's saying, is it's not that easy. Like, you could fill an entire room, but can you fill it with laughter? If you have a sold out stadium and you're a comedian like he is, and nobody laughs, was that a successful show? I mean, as far as the numbers go, it seems like it would be. But as far as like his actual purpose and what he's wanting to achieve, it doesn't. And so, or it's not, it doesn't seem as successful. So I like this idea of this hidden metric for measuring what we believe that success is. And going back to my example of a restaurant, I ran that restaurant for 6 years. I bought a restaurant that was dying, basically. I was working there previously, kind of had a crazy lucky experience, and was just able to kind of take advantage of that being in that situation, and was kind of in the right spot at the right time. And so I bought a restaurant that was seemingly dying, and I turned it around. We actually were one of the top rated restaurants in my area. And on the outside, it looks like we are really successful. I actually got voted best type of food for what I was serving. And in my county, I think it was either 4 or 5 years out of the six. And so for the majority of the time I was the top category of food. And it's so like on the outside though, I was really successful. I had an awesome Google review score. I had a lot of followers on Facebook, especially for the size of my area, and I was really really busy actually. Um, there were like it was almost on a daily basis as we were kind of going along throughout that process that people would comment on how much busier we seemed than some of the previous years that they had been there. And so, by all metrics from the outside looking in, I was successful. But here I was, stressed out of my mind, my sitting in this spot. And granted, I still have some work to do in my room behind me. I cleaned it up a bit around here for the camera, but man, this place used to be a like it looks like a tornado walked through it, and it I just sat here and like my desk would be covered with junk and trash and stuff because I didn't even have the mental capacity to plan on taking trash whenever I went to the kitchen, which is crazy. And so I'm in this like awful mental state. I actually started going to therapy once a week, which I still currently go to, but I started that back in August of 2020 because I was having such bad anxiety attacks that I couldn't even work. Um, so in every other aspect, it seemed successful, but inside, I don't feel successful at all, and I don't think I'm successful. And I mean, you can argue that I probably wasn't successful if I can't pay my bills, but when you're from the outside looking in, that's all you have to go on. And I think it's easy to look at other people's lives and look at what other people are doing and kind of think the best. Oh, they're going on a vacation. Must be nice to have the funds to be able to do that. But maybe they're going on a vacation that they maybe doesn't make them go broke or anything like that, but they maybe not necessarily have a great budget for, but they're doing it to get away because their relationship has not been doing well lately. And they wanted to spend some time away from everybody else in their immediate friends and family circle and just spend time and be together so that they can try to repair that relationship. It's like on the outside, it just looks like they're taking a vacation and they're super successful and they're living these awesome lives. But actually what's happening is that they have a problem relationship that they need to repair. And so I like this idea of, like I said, this hidden, or like he said, this, I forgot the phrase that he used. I went on too much of a tangent there, but this hidden metric of measuring success. And I think that like I said, it's easy to be on the outside looking at somebody and view what they're doing as being a success. But all of it comes back to how the person that the success actually affects, or the perceived success actually affects, and how they are doing. Because if everybody else thinks I'm successful and I don't, what does that matter? That doesn't mean anything. It actually might even put you in a worse spot because by all the metrics of everybody else, you should be successful, and now you're over here scratching your head. Why am I not successful? So I think focusing on yourself and your own well-being before you can, or even going further than that, achieving what you want to achieve, and then listening to what other people have to say, or looking at these other metrics. Like it's almost like none of the stadium selling out doesn't matter to Jimmy Carr if he doesn't make anybody laugh. I would imagine, and I don't know, but I would imagine if I asked him right now if he would rather have an entire stadium full of dead fish that don't laugh, or have a room where he's having a comedy bit in where that has literally one person sitting in it watching him and they're laughing their face off. I think he would take the one person. And obviously I don't like it goes into a bit of a further discussion on, we actually have to make a living, and I don't think Jimmy Carr can make a living. I don't think anybody can make a living on having one person attend their show all the time. But just to kind of give the dichotomy of the two different positions. And so yeah, I really think it's an interesting topic, and hopefully he expands on it a little bit more.
All the podcast is today is a comeback next week. There's more of this. It's great, and he's chatting to people, and this is the kind of conversation he has. Great. It's just doing more. It's process driven, not outcomes driven.
Do you know what Goodhart's Law is?
Goodhart's Law.
Goodhart's Law.
It sounds like a sequel to a movie.
It's kind
From
of like
the people that brought you, how'd you like them apples?
kind of like Parkinson's Law. So Parkinson's Law says that work expands to fill the time given for it.
Okay.
Fundamentally, it's the justification for time blocking and productivity strategy. It's why you completed your university assignments the night before they were due in, or sometimes, if you were me, throughout the entire night before they were due in.
Yeah, what's that great line? I think it's Dickens said, I would have written you a shorter letter, but I didn't have the time.
So that's Parkinson's Law. Goodhart's Law says when a measure becomes an outcome, it ceases to be a good measure. So when it's the over-reliance on dashboards for everything, right?
Yeah.
If I was to optimize on the podcast for plays, right, that's a measure. Plays are a measure of the success of the podcast. If I begin to use that measure as an outcome, it no longer is a good measure because it doesn't measure the thing that it's supposed to measure, right? I could get lots and lots of email addresses by posting all over the internet, sign up to my mailing list, and every single person that signs up will get £1,000, right? People will then sign up, and I won't give them £1,000 because I'm not going to do that. So the metric of acquire as many email addresses as I can, good, did that.
Yeah.
But the actual outcome I wanted was accumulate lots of people on a mailing list who actually want to hear from me, who trust in me and are going to click on links and are
Yeah.
going to care about what I've got to say. Like,
Can I
that's the actual outcome.
Can I ask about that? Like a sidebar.
Mm-hmm.
But I like the email that you sent.
Mm-hmm.
I'd rather you said it.
You want me to dictate it, don't you?
I'd rather that was a mini podcast that came at the beginning of the show. Here's what
Mm.
I've been thinking about.
So it seems like they're starting to get into some other topics, and I really wanted to focus on this kindness area that they talked about. So I just want to wrap up with some final thoughts, though. And all of this kind of plays into almost this idea of altruism, which I'm not a big believer in pretty much at all. I I think that pretty much no matter what we do as far as doing good things for other people, I think that a lot of that can come back to where you're doing it because it makes you feel good. That doesn't take away from the actual good that you're doing. Like if you're helping an old lady cross the street, you still helped an old lady cross the street, regardless of if you did it just because or you did it because it made you feel good. And I think that that expands into almost everything, though. Or actually, I do think that expands into every good thing that we do. Even if you were making a sacrifice in some aspect now, it's because you're probably looking for a benefit for yourself later. So, if a good example of this is I sacrifice my time now to help my um, wife do something so she doesn't have to do it. I'm sacrificing my time and the time that I can be doing things that I enjoy, but I'm also doing it so that I can benefit my wife, which will in turn benefit our relationship, which will go back and benefit me. And so I think that a lot of the things that we do kind of revolve around this aspect of making ourselves happy. But a lot of the things that I feel like I've seen recently is this kind of step away from doing things for others that make me happy and just skipping all of that and just going to make me happy. It seems like a lot of our culture has become very selfish and self centered in some aspects. And obviously, I'm not talking about everybody, but it just kind of seems to be more prevalent now than it has in the past. And I'm curious to kind of see or kind of understand more on why that is or why other people think that is. I'm sure a lot of it has to do with this aspect of social media that's in our lives now, uh, and kind of the way that it makes us think about ourselves and how we interact with society as a whole. But I'd like to expand on that a bit more later. But yeah, this idea of just being I don't know, I think we've lost kind of this being kind. And I know I just said I disagree with this, but being kind for the sake of being kind. And again, I think that's going to come back to benefit us or yourself anyway. But I think that we've just kind of lost this idea of just doing that. And I think that we would be a lot better place in a society if we did more little things. And stepped out of our way. Something that I've actually watched a bunch on TikTok here lately is this uh, TikTok channel, I guess, or page called Cart Narcs, where they just run around in parking lots and basically get in arguments with people. They do it in a as less combative as you possibly can. They're pretty well spoken and usually pretty nice, or yeah, I would say they're pretty nice, and they try to be as respectful as possible while also calling people lazy for not taking their carts back. And it's just kind of this crazy phenomenon that I feel like we see where people are so centered around their own world, I guess, to where they can't even take a shopping cart back uh, to the like buggy station. And so yeah, I think that that kind of expands into a lot of different facets of our society where nobody wants to take the extra step for somebody because they don't even want to take half a step to out of their own way. And I think that if we focused on just taking that one extra step for society or for other people just in general, I think our society would benefit from that a lot. But I'd like to hear a lot more of y'all's comments, and hopefully I can break down some of this a little bit more in a future video. And yeah, just give me your thoughts. Tell me what you think. Well, that's going to wrap it up for this video. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed it. Again, if you liked this conversation, I'll have the entire conversation listed in the description below. And also check out Chris Williamson's channel and his podcast called Modern Wisdom. And then check out Jimmy Carr. He's an awesome comedian. I like a lot of his stand-up. I think he's a really funny guy. But hope you enjoyed this video. I'll see you next time.